You're too pure for this wicked world. Your data's uncorrupted, but does something skip inside you? That's what takes up time.
Hi there, I'm Wendy, and welcome back to My Hot Kitchen. Tonight we're going to take your sweeties' taste buds on a little tour of Italy. We're going to be making stuffed shells and toasted garlic bread and delicious Italian-style green beans. So the basis of this delicious meal is going to be a classic Italian-style red sauce. And what you're going to do is begin by warming up olive oil in a saucepan and adding to it garlic and onions. About 6 cloves of garlic and about 1/4 of an onion diced up. And move it around the pan a little bit and make sure that the onions and the garlic get evenly coated with the olive oil. Just let these saute for a couple minutes. Add to it some black pepper. And then right as the onions and the garlic start to turn just a little bit translucent, deglaze it with a little bit of red wine, about 1 ounce or 2. And then add to that stewed Italian-style tomatoes, whole peeled tomatoes, tomato sauce, and a little bit of tomato paste. Wow. And then mash it all together a little bit. Break down those whole peeled tomatoes and the stewed tomatoes just a little bit before it starts cooking. And that should do the trick. And this is the time when you'd want to add your herbs. A nice generous amount of Italian-style herb blend. And then a few leaves of fresh basil that you've minced up as well. And then just stir that all together. And what you're going to want to do is let this simmer for at least an hour, maybe 2. Just sort of develop its flavor and cook out the flavor of the tomato a little bit and make it rich and full. All right, and now once it's mixed, the rest is really up to the stove. It's just going to bring it up to a boil, drop it down to a nice low simmer. And now it's time for part 2 of the sauce. You're going to need about 1 pound of spicy Italian sausage. You can use mild if you prefer. I really enjoy the flavor of the chili and the other spices that go into this. So put it into a nice hot pan, and all you're going to do is brown your meat. Use a spoon to sort of break it up a little bit. And if you're working with a nice non-stick pan like this one here, make sure that you use a wooden spoon or a soft plastic utensil for this job. Well, now that's looking pretty darn good right there. I switched to a flat edge spatula in the middle of the cooking process so that I could really break down the sausage and make it extremely crumbly. Now that it's all done, I'm going to drain it out here on a little plate that I've put some paper on, paper towels or napkins. And I'm going to use that to help drain out the fat. And about half of this meat I'm going to spoon out and put into that delicious sauce that we're making. It's going to add a whole bunch of flavor, and it's going to add that extra little oomph that's going to make the sauce just amazing. I'm going to stir that in, adjust my heat. Fabulous. Now I'm going to put a lid on that, and then I'm going to pop back over here and start working on a really delicious Italian-style salad to accompany the pasta dish. Begin by cutting off the roots of the green onions, you don't need those, and slice these up. I'm actually going to do that. Double my slicing speed here. Also going to slice a bit of a cucumber up. The cucumber is going to add a nice pleasant texture to the salad. And to that one Roma tomato. Slice off the end here and keep the part where the tomato attaches to the plant out of the salad. Slice it up. And then drop all this in your nice little salad bowl here. and get it marinating. The great thing about this salad is that you're going to use balsamic vinegar to help break down the vegetables. And it's also going to turn into your salad dressing. You're going to need some garlic salt, some black pepper, and a little olive oil to help this salad along. I think that a nice crisp green salad makes an excellent complement to such a rich pasta dish like you're making tonight. And then just toss that together. Let it sort of stew in its own juices while the rest of the dinner cooks. And now it's time for one of my favorite parts of this dinner. It's break time. So I'm going to go ahead and put the salad start and the sausage in the fridge for safekeeping, because it's going to be about an hour before the sauce is done. So I'm going to grab a little brewski for my honey, pour myself a little glass of wine, and you should do the same. See you in an hour. So this is looking really good. It's had about an hour to cook. Give it a little taste and then adjust it. I'm gonna add a little salt, just a couple pinches of sugar to kind of bring out the flavor. Give it another little taste. That is so good. The sauce is done. Now it's time to move on to boiling the shells. So you wanna start with a nice big pot of boiling water. So I'm going to add these jumbo shells to my boiling water here. Be careful with that process so that you don't break any. And a nice generous amount of salt, about a tablespoon's worth. And a whole bunch of olive oil so that they don't stick together. And just like any pasta, you want to give it a nice gentle stir. Keep it from sticking to the pan and from sticking to each other. And I recommend that you just follow the directions on the box for this particular brand of pasta that you buy, because each brand cooks a little bit differently. I'm going to boil these for 10 minutes. Right, 10 minutes has gone by, so the pasta is going to be done now. Take it off the heat, and gently I'm going to pour it into a colander that I've already set up here in the sink. And be really gentle with it, because I don't want to damage any of these shells as I pour them off, you know? Not going to fuss about the one that's left in there. Pull them out, gently shake them off, and bring them back over here. In the meantime, you can get your cheese stuffing all done. So to make this delicious traditional filling, you're going to need about equal parts of ricotta cheese and mozzarella cheese. And because it's so much cheese, I do recommend that you just go ahead and pick up the pre-grated stuff. It'll make your life a lot easier for you. Into that, go ahead and crack a couple of eggs. Give the eggs a little TLC here first and kind of give them a little light beating before you mix them into the cheese. And add to that a couple cloves of minced up garlic and a nice small mound of basil here, about a tablespoon's worth of fresh minced basil. And then fold this delicious mixture together. So this recipe is actually something that my husband taught me how to make. I used to beg him to teach me how to make his stuffed shells. And finally he gave up his secret. He used to make them with his godmother when he was a little boy. Lucky guy grew up with an Italian godmother that loved to cook. And at this point, you want to add the rest of that sausage that you cooked up earlier. This is what's really going to make the shells special and yummy. So just blend that into the cheese. And once everything's evenly incorporated and evenly spread around, you are good to go ahead and start stuffing your shells. But before I do that, I'm going to clear off a little space so I have some room to work with here. And the very first step is to line the pan with some of the delicious red sauce that you made. Just want to lay down a nice layer on the bottom. Just enough to evenly cover the surface. And then you get to start stuffing the shells. What you want to do is gently unroll the shell a little bit in your hand, kind of working on your fingers, and sort of build up a nice mound of cheese on your spoon and scoop it in there and kind of round it off. There you go. Wow, that looks really good. Stick it in the pan and start working on the next one. Sometimes you have to finagle the cheese into there just a little bit. Give it a little loving squeeze to help it keep its shape, and set it in there next to its buddy. And in goes the third one. And see how I'm setting them up so that their sides are touching? I'm doing that because these shells are being stuffed with cheese, and cheese obviously melts when it's heated up in the oven. And if they are leaning on each other, they will not flop open and turn into a big cheesy mess. So I was able to make 4 rows of 5 in my pan. Your pan may be different. It's just going to depend on the size of it. The important thing is to make sure that the sides are touching. And then before you put it in the oven, you want to finish it off with a nice little strip of sauce over the top of the shells. This is going to make them look really pretty. The sauce will also help the pasta to keep a little bit of moisture in it as it bakes and make a nice, tender, delicious result. See a holiday there. Very good. These are now ready to go in the oven. You'll want to bake those at 350 degrees for 35 to 45 minutes or until it becomes bubbly. So when the shells are about 10 to 15 minutes away from being done, you can go ahead and get started on your delicious Italian-style green beans. And the first and most important ingredient of this is the bacon. You can also use pancetta if you like. And what you're doing here is sort of rendering the bacon, going for that tender bacon and the extraction of the delicious bacon fat. So you want to work on a medium to medium-low heat and keep it moving around the pan. So you can see that the fat is sort of leaking out of the bacon and it's just barely starting to brown. This is just the perfect point to add the garlic, about a clove's worth, and the onion. A few slices off of an onion will do the trick here. And go ahead and give that a little toss in the oil, the bacon fat. Delicious. I have to thank my husband for this awesome new pan here. Got it for me a few days ago. It's pretty cool. Thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
All right, and just when you start to see the onions soften up a bit, go ahead and add the green beans. Toss them up. Love them up with a bit of salt and pepper. And let them saute until they're cooked. You know, while this cooks, you can go ahead and get your bread ready. A good pasta always deserves a good bread, so I'm going to spread a little garlic butter on this delicious sourdough baguette here. Always got to have bread with the pasta. It's just the way to go. All right, once you've covered it, you can go ahead and pop it in the oven. Scoot it on in here next to the shells. These look great. That'll be ready when everything else is. Meanwhile, let's go back to these beans. Look at these green beans. They're just about done. This is the point when you want to add a little bit of butter into this. A tablespoon to 2 tablespoons at least. Get it all melted down in there. Now listen for a happy little sizzle. Smells good. All right, once the butter's all melted, you can go ahead and add breadcrumbs. Toss that together. Oh. Well, those look good to me. Let's go get those shells out of the oven. Oh, I can't wait, I'm so hungry. I know my sweetie's hungry too. Look at how pretty those are. Come on out of there, bread. All right, and the last thing that you're gonna need for this meal is finish off that salad you started a while back. So you got your marinating vegetables, some romaine, some more of that grated mozzarella. What I want to do is give this a little toss here. Well, don't those look yummy? Look at all that. Pour that on top of my lettuce here. Give this a little toss. Yum. See, the dressing is going to come from the marinade that you made for the vegetables. All those flavors blended together over time. Really delicious. All right, top this guy off with some mozzarella cheese and some croutons. Give it a little fluff for fun. And this is ready to go on the table. Clear off a little space for myself again because it's time to plate up dinner. So I'm going to begin by putting a small layer of sauce on the plate underneath where I'm going to be putting the shells. Just going to make it pretty and sort of frame them in, you know? And if you have a bunch of extra sauce left over, well, lucky you. And then the next thing to do is to scoop out 2 or 3 of these shells for each plate. Use a nice little spoon and a soft hand. Set it in there very gently. Oh my goodness, do these smell good. Add the green beans. Garnish the shells with a little bit of fresh basil if you like. These are ready for your sweetie. Gotta get the bread on the plates. Nice crispy loaf of bread. Let's go. So that was an amazing meal that you just whipped up for your sweetie. Full of flavor, full of garlic, but don't worry about the garlic breath. If you and your sweetie both have it, neither one of you will notice. Serve this up with a nice red wine like a Chianti and call in your sweetie. Ciao! Honey!
Wow, this smells so good in here.
Yay!
Beautiful. Right. Wow, this is so
Have a seat.
I will. So good. This is such a hot kitchen.
So thanks for joining me in my hot kitchen tonight. Have fun turning up the heat in your kitchen, and I'll see you next week. Night night.
You're too pure for this wicked world.